So far since release, it's felt like the meta has been controlled by the bad guys, and with good reason. They have some of the strongest cards in the game: Overwhelming Barrage, Fett's Fire Spray, Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine. I could go on, but it's not like the heroes have nothing. We have some strong leaders including Luke, Sabine and Han, and some strong cards like U-Wing Reinforcements, Obi-Wan and Luke the Unit card. Some of those late game plays can be game winning by themselves. Playing Obi-Wan into deploying Luke the leader can often win the game on its own. So in any Luke deck, the question is, how can we get there quicker, and how can we survive long enough to make those plays? I don't want the meta to be dominated just by villains. I want the good guys to win sometimes as well, and to that end I've been testing different hero lists to see what works. I've tried Luke Double Blue and I think that's not far off being viable, but I think the best colour combination with Luke at the moment is probably green. So in today's video I'm going to run through my best iteration of a Luke deck so far, and see if the heroes can make a comeback. So this is the deck list. The aim of this deck is simple: play out our cheap high health units, R2-D2, Regional Governor, Battlefield Marine, Guardian of the Wills, and play upgrades on them to trade well in the early game. Ideally we then play Resupply to ramp into the mid game a stage earlier. We play Akbar, Yoda and Bright Hope to stabilise and draw attacks in the mid game. Then on turn 6 we play Obi-Wan into Luke the leader and win the game. If our opponent somehow survives this turn, we play U-Wing Reinforcements to reload the board. So we have a few win conditions in this deck. We can flood the board with small minions, with upgrades, and overwhelm the opponent. We can lock down the board behind a shielded Obi-Wan Kenobi, or we can win the game late through U-Wing Reinforcements. And we also have one last trump card in the form of Redemption to fully heal us back to normal. So let's go through the deck one by one, looking at each card and why we've chosen them. Let's start at the top with the leader card. Why are we playing Luke and not Chewbacca or Chirrut? For me, Chewbacca is too slow. He comes in as a 7-cost 2/9 with Sentinel and Grit, which is strong and can be snowbally, but it's just too late in this Boba meta. With Boba coming down on turns 4 or 5, we just can't wait long enough for Chewbacca. But Pixel, I hear you say. Chirrut comes down a turn earlier than Luke, so why aren't we using him? Hold your horses. Yes, he does come down a turn earlier, and I think Chirrut would be a good choice for this deck. Luke's stats and ability just synergize so much better with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Being able to shield him and hide behind him as a wall is just too strong. Luke's ability to shield other minions in the early game is also very strong. I think if we were to play Chirrut in this deck, I'd probably build it quite differently, but look out for a Chirrut deck from me in the future. The base. To ECL or not to ECL? That is the question. I've tried both. I've tried this deck with ECL and without, and in quite a few games that extra 5 health was the difference between winning and losing. And I don't think that we play a unit impactful enough with Ambush to justify playing ECL, and so I've gone for the extra health. The units. R2-D2 is a 1-cost 1/4, who, when played and on attack, you can look at the top card of your deck. You may put it on the bottom of your deck, otherwise leave it on top of your deck. The main reason we play R2-D2 is his 4 health for 1 cost. As far as I'm aware, no other card in the game has 4 health for 1 cost, and no other card in the game can remove him on turn 1. If your opponent wants to spend 3 resources using something like Open Fire on him on turn 2, more power to them. You just spend 1 resource and they spend 3 trying to get rid of him. He's a great target for any upgrades because this makes him even more difficult to remove, and his ability is actually quite useful. Being able to see that something like Redemption is sitting on top of your deck on turn 1 and putting it to the bottom is quite impactful. And lastly, on turn 1, you can play him and shield him with Luke's ability, which is super annoying for your opponent to deal with. Next up we have Guardian of the Wills, a 2/2 for 2 with an ability which says, the first upgrade you play on this unit each round costs 1 less. This effect is very strong, very snowbally. Once multiple upgrades are stacked on this unit, it can be quite difficult for your opponent to deal with, but the trade-off is that she only has 2 health, and so she might not stick around. If you have multiple early game options, it can be better to hold on to this unit and play her on turn 2 with an Electro Staff, which costs 1, making her a bit more difficult to remove as a 4/4 who gives the attacker -1. Regional Governor comes in as a 2-cost 1/4, which says when played, name a card. While this unit is in play, opponents can't play the name card. So there's 2 reasons we're playing this. 1, it has 4 health, so like R2-D2 is difficult to remove and is a good target for upgrades. And 2, the ability is very powerful, especially as people get better at the game and become more aware of the impactful cards to say. For example, playing it on turn 1 and saying Resupply or Super Laser Tech can just stop some decks right in their tracks. Next up is Battlefield Marine, a 2-cost 3/3, best stats for the cost in the game. I've talked about this one in my previous videos, see the link in the description. Has no abilities, but you're almost always happy to see this one and slap it down on turn 1. Not much more to say about this. Restored Arc, a 2-cost 2/3 with Restore 1. This deck doesn't focus on space in a meaningful way, but we have to have some presence there to stem the tide. Restored Arc is good because the Restore one does sometimes come in handy, and especially if you have 2 of these down it can stack up. Other than that, this is just cannon fodder really. Next up is Yoda, a 3-cost 2/4 with 2 abilities, Restore 2 and when defeated, choose any number of players that each draw a card, which obviously is just draw a card. In this game, Yoda essentially has Sentinel. As soon as he comes down, watch your opponent do everything they can to remove him. He's one of the strongest 3-cost units in the game just for his abilities alone. Restore 2 is worth a lot more than you think, and is most of the reason that he gets sniped as soon as he comes down. He also replaces himself with card draw, which is quite nice. His stats are okay for the cost, 4 health is nice, as it's a bit more difficult to deal with, and he's a bit more sticky as a result. And as he's a force unit, he also synergizes with our Jedi lightsabers. Up next is Admiral Akbar, a 3-cost 1/4 with Restore 1, and an ability which says, when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of units you control in its arena. So Akbar might be a win more card. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you're ahead on board, Akbar is great at helping you to consolidate your position. But if you're behind, he's not as good. He can come down on turn 2 and ping off a Greedo or a Stormtrooper, sure, but he's much more impactful coming down onto a board of 2 or 3 units and pinging off a 4 health unit like K2SO. Like Yoda, he does have 2 abilities. His other ability is Restore 1, which is not completely useless and can come in handy. And his 4 health means he's another good target for upgrades, and he's another sticky early game minion, difficult to get rid of for your opponent. And lastly, he's an excellent card to get out of U-Wing reinforcements. As you can choose the order in which you play the units, he can come down last and often do 4 or even 5 damage to the opponent. Bright Hope is a 4-cost 2/6 with Sentinel, and an ability which I'm not going to talk about because it's useless. Again, we're not focusing on space in this deck, but Bright Hope allows us to shut down the space arena quite effectively, at least for a few turns. Most space units around this time of the game will need to trade into it 2 or even 3 times given its high health. So this is basically a stopgap. Next up is Obi-Wan Kenobi, a 6-cost 4/6 unit with Sentinel and an ability, give 2 experience tokens to another friendly unit. If it's a force unit, draw a card. Obi-Wan is one of our win conditions for the deck. He's a tanky boy who can dish out a good amount of damage. How is he our win condition? This part is quite important. You need to play Obi-Wan Kenobi before deploying Luke as your leader. It's quite rare that your opponent can one-shot Obi-Wan Kenobi at this stage of the game, so one of 2 things is going to happen. 1, they can't kill him, and Luke comes down, you attack and you shield Obi-Wan, and the ground arena is essentially completely shut down. 2, they do kill him, and you can buff up Luke to a 6/9 and draw a card. Often this is enough to win the game, but if it's not, we have our next card, Luke Skywalker the unit, a 7-cost 6/7 with Restore 3, and an ability which says when played, give an enemy unit -3/-3, or if a friendly unit was defeated, give that enemy unit -6/-6. So on a base level, Luke comes down and can kill a 3 health unit, but if you can get -6 to go off, it's even stronger. His ability to restore 3 on attack is also the highest in the game. If you're managing to swing with Luke, you've probably won the game, especially if he's sitting behind an Obi-Wan Kenobi. But given his high cost, you're not going to be able to play him in every game. And he's not actually the top end of the deck. That belongs to the next card, which is Redemption. Redemption is an 8-cost 6/9 space unit with Sentinel, which says, when played, heal up to 8 total damage from any number of units and or bases. Deal that much damage to this unit. Now I have a confession to make. I've never actually managed to play this card because the games I play just don't go that long. But in my mind, in theory, this seems like it could be a very good recovery card. I think it's a bit of a meta call. If there's a lot of aggro or mid-range in your meta, you might want to cut this. If you're going up against control or late game decks, this might be a good fit. Alternatively, you could try Home 1. Now let's discuss the events. This will be quite short. We've only played 3 events in this deck. Resupply is a 3-cost, put this event into play as a resource. This is our ramp. It lets us get to our Obi-Wan/Luke turn 1 turn earlier. It's quite important in this deck. If you see it in your opening hand, I would keep it most of the time, unless the rest of your hand is garbage. We don't have the option of super laser tech like those bloody bad guys, so this is our only option really. Strike 2 is a 3-cost event which says a friendly unit deals damage equal to its power to an enemy unit. This is our only removal card. Usually when you play it, it's 3 costs, deal 3 or 4 damage to something, but it can be more than that with upgrades. It can also go across arenas, and so can sometimes be our only way of dealing with space units early on. And our last event, U-Wing Reinforcements, a 7-cost, search the top 10 cards of your deck for up to 3 units with a combined cost of 7 or less, and play each of them for free. Put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in a random order. This is one of our win conditions. You can pull any combination of 3 cards up to 7 resources. Some good combinations are Yoda, R2 and Akbar, Akbar being the last card, just because you want to get more damage off him. Or you can just put an Obi-Wan Kenobi into play alongside a R2-D2, or Luke can come down on his own in the late game to stabilise for you. There's only 1 card in the deck that's unplayable with it, and that's Redemption. This is one of our win conditions. It's a great card. It's a good card to come back with. This can win you the game. Now for the upgrades. We play 3 upgrades. Luke's lightsaber comes down as a 2-cost +3/+1. When played on Luke, heal him to full and give him a shield. If you manage to play this on Luke, you're probably winning the game. but it's still good on nearly all of our minions, especially Guardian of the Wills, for which this costs 1 and makes it a 5/3. Jedi Lightsaber, 3 cost +3/+3, very high stats but a bit more expensive. If attached to a Force unit, which we have quite a few of, Guardian of the Wills, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Luke. On attack, give a defender -2/-2, so very good for trading in the early game and keep your minions on the board. Electro Staff is a 2 cost +2/+2, whilst defending the attacker gets -1/-0. This is the only upgrade I'm not sure on in this deck, but it's nice that it can come down on turn 2 with a Guardian in 1 turn to make it a 4/4, or essentially a 4/5 with the defending ability. So now let's take a look at a quick game of Force Table to give you an idea of how it all comes together. So let's just take a look at our mulligan. So this is actually a really good opening hand. So we have quite a few low cost cards, including a few different upgrades. So I'm not going to mulligan. I'm going to take this hand. The opponent is mulliganing. Okay, so let's choose what we need to resource. So we've got a few options here. So in fact, we've got multiple options. It makes this a bit difficult, but since we've got 2 Battleful Marines, I'm going to resource one of those. And then we've got to think about what a turn 1 looks like. I think we can either play down a regional governor and stop them from playing something on turn 2, or we can start with an R2-D2 and shield it, and then play an upgrade on turn 2 ourselves. But then a Jedi Lightsaber would be quite good actually. So let's think about that. So I think I'm going to resource Luke's Lightsaber, so we still have the options of regional governor as well. I think I quite like that play that I talked about. So Restored Arc is on top of our deck. Do we want to put that on the bottom? No, I think we're quite happy to get a Restored Arc. Okay. And then we're going to use Luke's ability to put a shield onto R2-D2. And the opponent's taking the initiative, so that's fine. We'll pass. Oh, more early game options. Okay, what do we want to resource? I actually think I'm going to resource the Restored Arc because I think I'm going to ignore the Space Arena for now. Yeah, we don't care if you're doing damage to the base, to be honest. Okay, and now I'm going to play down my Jedi Lightsaber on R2-D2, who is now a 4/7. Okay, you take the initiative, that's fine. So in a race, we're obviously going to win because... And Electro Staff on the top. Do I want to put Electro Staff on the bottom? No, I think I quite like Electro Staff. And we'll pass. So we're going to have 4 resources. So I think, again, I don't really care too much about the Space Arena. So I'm putting that down. He's just going to go ahead and do some more damage. I don't think you're going to win this race. So I'm going to go ahead and play Regional Governor. And I'm going to say resupply because I don't want Boba to come out this turn. And I'm going to play Guardian of the Wills. To try and, what I'm trying to do here is spread out my options a little bit because I want to play the Electro Staff next turn on the Guardian. Okay, they're playing 2 minions. This minion here is a Seasoned Shore Trooper, which will become more powerful when they're at 6 resources. I think I'm just going to get rid of that while I can. Let's see what we have. Another Jedi Lightsaber. I think I like that, so I'm going to keep that on top of my deck. They've taken the initiative, and we will pass. Redemption, I don't think we're going to make it that far, so I'm going to resource that. Okay, what are they doing? They're hitting the base. So I have to be wary of the Boba Fett leader card coming down. So currently my R2-D2 can do 4 damage in 1 hit. So my plan was to put the Jedi Lightsaber onto the Guardian of the Wills, but I think I want to be able to kill their Boba in 1 fell swoop, and so I'm going to put the Jedi Lightsaber onto R2-D2. And I'm going to wait for that to happen. So I'm going to play down, I think I'll put the Electro Staff onto Guardian of the Wills. Here comes Boba. And we're not going to let you do anything with that. Run all in any order. Strike True I don't want, so I'm going to put that on the bottom of my deck. Because I'm looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, and I'm not going to waste 5 damage, so I'm going to put that 5 damage into their base. Let them take the initiative. And I'll pass. Okay, so this turn I can technically play all 3 of these, but I need another resource to bring in Luke. So I'm going to put R2-D2 down. See what they do. So we're in a bit of a race here, I think. In which case I'll bring out Luke. That was an odd choice to make. I don't know how much health R2-D2's got left. He's currently +6, so 10, 4. He's got quite a lot of health left, yeah. But I'm going to shield R2-D2. Playing Greedo. Oh, I'm using ECL to kill my regional governor. Sometimes the AI is a bit weird. In order. Oh, we want Luke, so not putting that at the bottom of the deck. That's a little bit scary. So at this point, whoever has the initiative wins on the next turn, so I'm just going to claim. And I don't need to resource because I win. And we're just going to attack with R2-D2 and kill him with a R2-D2 dual wielding lightsabers. How about that? There we go. I don't care. And that's the game. Okay. Let's take a look at a quick game of Force Table to give you an idea of how it all comes together. So there you have it. Is Luke viable? Definitely. Is he tier 1? Probably not. I think with an optimised list he could be at the upper end of tier 2. I haven't fully explored the options open to Luke Yellow, but this is something I plan to do in a future video. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching.